All right, all right. All right, all right. All right, check this out. So the idea here is to rank the greatest metal albums of all time. So this is the best list that I could find. Or the best, tier maker list. They call it 500 plus. I don't know if this is 500. It's definitely a shitload. But, I mean, I can already see some problems. Like, we're missing some pretty big influential bands. Big influential. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that really just doesn't need to be on this list. Like, it's just going to clog everything up, right? Like, I mean, do we really need, Dehumanizer? Probably not. Do we really need, like... I mean, I don't know. There's some junk in here. That's all I'm going to say. We're missing stuff, so we're going to keep some notes. And the idea is that we will come back to this at some point and maybe see where things are at down the line. There's going to be some stuff that I'm not familiar with. There are some gaps in my knowledge, but I've been listening for a long time. I got a pretty good idea of what's important, what's not. So we're just going to kind of see how things go. So we're going to start off with the most boring thing ever, which is rename all of these. So at the top here is the Pantheon. Very few albums will make that. We'll go down here. Well, let's go top to bottom. We can call this maybe contenders. We may change some names as we go along too. Let's do excellence. Let's do groundbreaking. What comes next? Let's think. How about influential? Is influential the same thing as groundbreaking? Let's find out. How about great? How about, let's see. Good for the time. Maybe we'll find a more meaningful way of describing that as we go along. Let's insert us a couple rows below. This one. Let's call this deserves mention. Let's call this, we're kind of in the, there shouldn't be any bad albums on this, right? Otherwise, why is it even being mentioned? That's my attitude anyway. But what there could be is overrated. And by that same token, we'll have underrated. And we're going to make one more here. Nope, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to call this one unfamiliar. And now that I think about it, we are going to need one more because of the sheer amount of garbage down here. We might just need Might just need to get out of here rank so we can clear the list. Okay. So where do we start? Pantheon contenders. Excellence. When I was making one of these other ranks, I thought of a really good name for one of these things we had up here, but I've already forgotten it. What would it have been? Well, we'll worry about that later. This is Influx. So let's see. Maybe we just grab a few. Like, Primus, is that metal? Like, come on. Primus is fine, right? But does it need to be on this list? Like, probably not. Probably not. I don't really consider it metal. So where to start? Okay, right here at the top, we've got an incredible album. King Diamond's Them, part of the, I mean, early Diamond and Merciful Fate is just damn near untouchable, right? I think Excellence is probably a safe spot there. By the same token, we have Abigail here. I'm just going to say, like, this is at the very least a contender, if not in the Pantheon. And my attitude for the Pantheon is, like, the top 10. And I'm going to try to make it cover, you know, slightly different subgenres. But I think Abigail's almost certainly one of the 10 best. Let's see, what else can we grab here? I'm seeing some albums that are pretty great for the, like, if you take the context into consideration, right? Like worship music here. I don't know that anybody was expecting Anthrax to drop something like this good that late in their career. But comparatively, like, is it really, like, all-time great? Like, I don't think so. Let's see. This is going to take 200 years if we don't get a move on. So maybe we just start up here. We've got 10,000 Days. I think that's a pretty great album. I think Tool fans were very happy with 10,000 Days when it released. Let's see. We got Facelift. This strikes me as a good for the time album. It's pretty good. Like, pretty damn good. Especially those front four. But it's so heavily outclassed by the album that came next. I mean, it's right here. So why don't we just go ahead and... This is... Dirt to me is at least a contender. And again, maybe even in the Pantheon. So we will potentially come back to that. Here's a good one. Black Sabbath's Headless Cross is underrated as fuck. I've gone on record many times, and I love me some Sabbath. I love Sabbath with Ozzy. I love it with Dio. Tony Martin's the best singer they ever had, and I'm not shy about it. The music is, like, not quite as good, obviously, as those first 10 albums or whatever, but it's very, very good still. Okay, so Under the Sign of the Black Mark, right? There's going to be some that kind of can go to different ranks here. I think that Under the Sign of the Black Mark is, I mean, it's pretty damn groundbreaking, but I think we're actually going to put it in the contenders here, because Bathory has, like, at least 2 other groundbreaking albums that invented new genres effectively. Heartwork, To me, that's super influential. Let's see, what else can we do here? Kind of clear this list a bit. Got Blessed Are the Sick. Is this groundbreaking? Like, maybe not this one. Altars would be more groundbreaking, but it's certainly excellent. Okay, so here's one that maybe would be one of my... I mean, maybe not. We're 10 years removed from this album at this point. I think that The Satanist, if you don't know, Behemoth's The Satanist, right here, came out in 2014 after a 5-year break, I believe it was, Nurgle recovering from cancer and all that stuff. It's a fucking flawless album. It is front to back incredible, if you've never heard it. It's one of the best metal albums ever. This might be more controversial, right? Ascendancy isn't groundbreaking, but I do think it was fucking excellent. I mean, it dips a little bit in the second half with a song or two, but I mean, it was really, really, really strong. And I think that pretty much all of us were kind of amazed by that quality of a band that young. I mean, Blackwater Park, I mean, it's got to be a contender, right? It's not my personal favorite Opeth album, but it is for a lot of people, for sure. Kind of looking at like Sabbath 13 here. Like, why is this here? Doesn't really need to be. I mean, Carcass, right? I think if nothing else, it's groundbreaking. I can't particularly stand to listen to it. No shade. But it is pretty fucking wild. As the palaces burn, man. I think this is kind of that point, like right after the millennium, where we turned the page on new metal collectively. I love new metal. I'm an apologist for it. But I think As the Palaces Burn is one of Lamb of God's 2 flawless albums. And we're going to talk about the other one a lot later. Not a lot, because this will take, again, 200 years if I talk about anything at the length that I have been so far. Is Deftones metal? Like, I guess, alt metal, right? This landed in an unfortunate spot. Diamond Eyes was... I mean, that's a great album. I've always been I've always been pretty harsh on Deftones. They're not my favorite at all. But shit, man. That album sounds incredible, first of all, and it's just great front to back. I'm not a huge Sunbather fan. And I hate to call it influential because, like, other bands were doing this before, but it definitely popularized the post-black quite a bit. Alcest is just, I mean, I think that's how you say it, right? I'm sure it's not in France, but we ain't in frickin' France. So, let's see. Got a couple Dark Throne albums here, right? Under a Funeral Moon is certainly influential. To me, Transylvanian Hunger is at least excellence. Possible contender. There's going to be so much scrolling. Surgical Steel. We need like a comeback albums list, right? Let's just call it. Oh shit, that's not what I meant to do. What did I take away? Good for the time. Comeback albums. Overrated, underrated. Oh, I don't remember what this used to be. So now it's comeback albums. Just because I think that really helps describe them better. And I think we can put worship music here too. And this shit is so fucking good. It's at least great, right? Like I'd probably put Surgical Steel in excellence. But just for description's sake, I think having a comeback album spot is really nice. Okay. Anima. Anima's pretty excellent, man. I mean, we know it and love it. Man, there's so much junk in here. This is not junk. This is certainly not junk. I was not expecting Accept to drop something that sick, that late. I think a lot of people really liked this album. I'm not the biggest Anthrax fan, but there's no question that Among the Living is one of the great thrash metal albums. I mean, I'm seeing Neurosis stuff here. Like, a couple of these bands have just a disgusting discography. I think for metalheads, Scorpions are kind of underrated as time goes on. They really kind of get left out. I think they're seen more as a classic rock band a lot of times. To me, they're metal, man. And if it wasn't underrated, like, Blackout's going way up here. One of these spots. If not here. Because I like all the songs on this. Especially the title track. I think one of their problems is a lot of their albums just have like one or two great tracks. And then kind of some I don't want to say junk, but you can leave a lot of the rest. So again, King Diamond, this fucking guy is the real deal, man. You can make a very strong argument that Them is also up here in the contenders. These three albums are they're just god tier. This is my personal favorite, but I think Abigail comes with a certain pedigree that is hard to ignore. So we've got I'm seeing some stuff here that's going to be really tough to rank. Like Saxon's just, for the new wave of British heavy metal, like, they're almost unmatched early on. At least three of their albums could really occupy this spot. Like, you just hand me one of the three and I'd be pretty okay with it. Since Bathory is here at the top, like, this is groundbreaking. This is Viking metal's birth right here. Really good. I mean, Viking metal is not my thing by any means. I don't know. Is Dark Angel groundbreaking? Like, maybe not, but it is most certainly influential. What else do we see here? Blizzard. This is a tough one. So I'll just outright say I am not the biggest Ozzy solo fan. In fact, I mostly don't like it. Some great songs here and there. I would actually say, like, No More Tears is my favorite. But pretty much every metal guitarist is influenced by this album. If not, Iommi before that. There's no question that it's at least influential. And I think I'll just leave it at that. So I'll back that up with another band that I'm not a big fan of. I've never been a big Pantera fan. This is, however, fantastic. There's just so many good songs on this. There's no question. Cowboys from Hell. It's a fucking great album. I just don't personally love Pantera. Okay, so Crack the Sky. I think Great is probably where this belongs. And Mastodon is, it's one of those bands that just has you're in the Leviathan camp, or you're in the Blood Mountain camp, or you're in the Crack the Sky camp. Like, which version of Mastodon is your favorite, right? Or the Remission camp for those old heads, Sludge Lords. All four of those albums are great, at least. I personally think one of them is going to shoot up the list a bit. It happens to be my favorite. I mean, we can just do this, right? We don't even really have to talk about this. Seeing some Deicide here. This is certainly influential. And I come back to this album a lot because this has, like, some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, it's just dumb as hell. But it's so fun, so brutal. See here, like, do we need the link on this list? Like, it's just clogging stuff up, and seeing all the stuff that is missing here. I don't know if you guys have identified some of the things that are missing. I think is Holy Diver in the Pantheon? Man, it's a contender probably. We'll leave it in contender for now. Let's see, what else is jumping out? I'm just going to say it. LD50 is one of the greatest metal albums of all time. Like it's fucking awesome, man. Front to back. And there's nothing else like you can't get what you get on LD50 anywhere else. This is one of the most insane vocal performances I've ever heard. Yeah, that's true. I can't think of... Like, Chad was just a maniac on that album. Embers to Inferno. Did that need to be here? That's taking up a spot. Inside the Electric Circus. Probably didn't need this here, right? But while we're on Dream Theater... Again, not one of my favorite bands. Is it groundbreaking? Not really. I mean, it popularizes a genre, right? I think it belongs in excellent, and I'm going to piss a lot of people off with my Dream Theater thoughts. But Scenes from a Memory, from a metal standpoint, it's a bit overrated, man. This is good music. But I think if you're a metal fan and you're, like, trying to introduce somebody to prog metal, this is... A lot of people point to this to, like, start. And I think that's a really, really bad idea. Okay, here's a couple interesting ones. Panopticon. This is one of the greatest metal albums of all time. And it is the greatest. I mean, it's one of the three greatest for post-metal. And likewise, Oceanic has to be groundbreaking. What else do we see? I mean, Human. Like, how do you rank Death? All of their albums fucking rule, right? And it's kind of like a Mastodon thing where you can put these, like, somebody's going to have, Human up here in the Pantheon. I don't know if that's my choice for it. We'll see. It might be symbolic. So, I mean, whether or not the influence was great, I think End of Heartache is, I mean, it's damn good for that kind of mallcore stuff. It's just, we've come a long way, right? L'Enfant Sauvage. Maybe, I mean, it's got at least my favorite Gojira song. But I think it does fall, like, it's a little bit meandering. Whereas, while we're talking Gojira, right here, From Mars to Sirius is one of the best, I think, metal albums ever. And the band belongs in influential. I'm not sure if you can specify which one it would be. Like, if it's going to be, are they groundbreaking? Like, probably, right? Like, this could probably be here. Well, let's leave it there for now. What did I grab? Ghost Reveries is, to me, the excellence category is front to back perfect. No misses. Like, this is potentially a contender. Some people are going to say this is in the Pantheon. And I can't fault them for it. It's another Mastodon situation. Opeth has like 9, 10 out of 10 albums to me. No, not 9, because I would say like Damnation and Deliverance are not that great, but Orchid up to Watershed, except for those two, pretty much 10 out of 10. I mean, we've got Burzum here. It's probably influential. It's not groundbreaking, right? I mean, shit, maybe it is. But I'm going to leave it an influential for now. All right, so Maiden. I think pretty much everybody expects Maiden to have an album way up here. And most people are going to choose Number of the Beast to be in their Pantheon, right? And I don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but this album is pretty fucking overrated. Now, don't get me wrong. The title track is god level, like one of the most important metal songs ever. Hallowed Be Thy Name is like fucking one of the best metal songs ever, and it's arguably their best. 22 Acacia Avenue is incredible, but like there's some filler on this thing. Like half the songs are filler. I'm sorry. Iron Maiden's first album is underrated. I think people really overlook the Paul Di'Anno stuff, and that's unfortunate because it's really good. Killers is actually, I mean, I think I'm going to leave it in excellence, but it's really damn good. Like, really fucking good. While we're here, The Way of All Flesh is probably in excellence. What are we doing? Blaze in the Northern Sky. It's pretty damn influential. I'll put this over here with the other Dark Throne. Keep seeing Neurosis, but I am not seeing the ones that I want to grab. Fatal Portrait, Merciful Fate. I don't know that one in particular is that influential, but it is pretty damn good still. Let's see. I could ruffle some feathers here with Painkiller. I think that this, despite how great it is, don't get me wrong, it is great, but I think that this is a bit overrated. They have better stuff. They really do. What do we have here? Stained Class. Personally, I think Stained Class goes in the Pantheon. If not for the fact that it doesn't really have a pedigree, right? Like it's not It doesn't have the weight of one of the greatest albums of all time. And for that reason, I'm going to leave it in contenders. But I think it is their most complete album. I think it is probably their only album that has no filler. Locust, Machine Head. This was pretty... It's not a comeback album. It's pretty damn great. And considering, like, all the shit that they were going through, I mean, all the lineup changes and recovering from the weird, like, genre shifting stuff, it's pretty surprising that that album was that good. So Endgame here, I don't know that you call this necessarily a comeback album. What came before this? The album with Washington Is Next, right? I really, really like that album. But I think because it was good, I'm going to hold off from calling it a comeback album. And just call this kind of... Is it good for the time? No. But I think it might maybe then just be a bit underrated in the catalog of Megadeth. I keep seeing these Motorhead albums and I'm dreading coming to them because I always forget which one's which by the album cover. Speaking of underrated, I'm not gonna grab Cryptic Writings because it's really not that metal. But there's good stuff on this. We got Death Angel here. It's not great necessarily, but just Death Angel in general is pretty underrated. I think they have an incredible vocalist, like just super captivating vocalist with a really unique style. Great riffs. Oddly enough, like a lot of their more melodic stuff is the stuff that I like the most from them. Does this need to be here? Like, probably not. Definitely not. Gorgoroth's Antichrist is pretty fucking great, man. I'm seeing like High on Fire stuff. Is that like some of the best metal ever? Like, I don't necessarily think so. So Magma. It's not overrated or underrated. What I'm going to do is call it disappointing. Despite the fact that there's some really good songs on there. I did it again. I've tried to add a rank and failed. This is unfamiliar. No, it's not. This is underrated. I also want to add a row below. We're going to color this the same color, and we're going to call this disappointing. And the only because like if it's anybody else, this is a pretty strong album, but just from the run that they were on, and I get why it happened, you know, that it's a very emotional album, but it really lost some steam there in the second half. And I mean, I love Severa. It's, well, you all know. Magma, it's good stuff. But coming off of L'Enfant Sauvage and From Mars to Sirius, it's just, it was a bit jarring. So Around the Fur, I'm going to call this good for the time. Because that's an era where Again, I'm a new metal apologist, but a lot of that stuff, a lot of the popular stuff at the time was really kind of infecting a lot of the like good music out there, right? And I'm not talking about Limp Bizkit, for the record. I think Limp Bizkit is pretty unfairly maligned, if not a little bit dumb sometimes. But this was pretty unique for that time period. Girls Goes Girls is, I mean, like Motley Crue is underrated just from a metal standpoint. But I mean, it's great. It's great. I'll leave it in great. It's not groundbreaking because we're already a few years in, right, to glam. Faith No More has some metal tendencies. I don't know that I call them a metal band. Same with like Corrosion of Conformity. Like they're more of a hardcore band to me. Is it semantics? Like, yeah, I get that, but like, how far down the list do you go before you name a Corrosion of Conformity album? Fucking Power Slave, right? And let's just grab a couple of these Maiden albums while they're here. I'll talk about that in a second. Ooh, there's a bunch of good stuff right in here. So, again, there's a sizable portion of people who consider Seventh Son to be the best Maiden album. And if it's the best Maiden album, it belongs in the Pantheon. I don't think it is. I also don't think it's quite excellent, personally. I think this is a pretty great album. There's really good... Moonchild's one of my very favorite Maiden songs. This isn't my favorite album, and neither is Power Slave, but that does get my vote for the Pantheon. I think, despite having like one, maybe two-ish, filler-ish songs, the rest of it is just... The bookends on this thing are untouchable. Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Like, those three alone elevate everything else, and they're not the only, they're not the only great songs on there. So, Ashes of the Wake, to me, is a contender. I think that, to this day, and I've been listening to metal since, like, before I was cognizant of my surroundings. MTV, for the record. To me, when I think of modern metal, and it kind of makes me want to throw up a little bit, because this album's 20 years old this year, to me, I still think of Ashes of the Wake as maybe the single greatest example of, like, the modern metal sound. It has always been my favorite Lamb of God album. And it's good all the way through. Like, really, really, really good. It's also extremely influential with the drumming. It was a near untouchable vocal performance. I mean, this is where they said, like, oh, we're an institution now. We're not just putting out great albums anymore. I keep seeing Wasp, but I don't see the good ones. So, I'm a little iffy on a couple of the Neurosis albums. I'm going to put this in Unfamiliar. I know it's got its fans. Okay, so Screaming for Vengeance. Let's just be honest with ourselves. I think it belongs in the Pantheon. I think that's the Priest album that belongs up there. Again, it's not my personal favorite. That would be Stained Class. But I think that a certain impact and pedigree came with this. Clayman is a great album. I'm not going to get into too much In Flames shit or I will never get out of it. Okay, Somewhere in Time. This is what I was looking for before. This is my favorite Maiden album, if you don't count... so I guess it's not my favorite, but it is my favorite classic Maiden album. I'm not going to call it contender necessarily because it carries basically no weight with it, and it's largely underrated as fuck at this point. But there's no misses on this album. There's a song that I don't love that much, but other people do. Like, I know they do, so let's just leave it there. Excuse me. And for the record, this is one of my favorite albums of all time, and I mean like on the fucking short list. What do we see here? I mean, I'm on Hybrid Theory, so let's do something with it. It is... New metal exists, right? Like, how do you explain one of the top-selling albums of all time? It's not necessarily groundbreaking, but it's also not my job to explain why it's that high. You all fucking know it is. You know damn well it is. Sacrament. Is pretty great. I think this falls off... Well, it doesn't fall off. It's more like it dips in the middle. But coming from Palaces and Ashes, like... it wasn't even really like a dip in quality. It's just I didn't like the shift in a couple of the songs quite as much. Is this like... Priest never really went away. But this album's fucking mind-blowing for how old those assholes are. I mean, I'm seeing Leprosy here. I think I can probably leave that behind. Alive or Just Breathing. This is in a lot of ways groundbreaking. It is definitely excellent. I think it goes in the Pantheon, man. I just think that was like the tipping off point for a huge change in what so many of us wanted to hear. It was this and Shadows Fall. And then once you kind of wrap your head around those two albums, especially for somebody who was not privy to like underground stuff at the time, I would have been, 14, 15 when this came out. Maybe 16. Came out, is it 01 it came out? Whatever. But that was one of the albums that really got me into heavier shit. And I think it's like really stands the test of time. If you go and look at it now, that is just like metalcore excellence. And again, like once you get past Shadows Fall and Kill Switch and you get onto the As I Lay Dyings and the Unearths and all that stuff, you're off to the races, because it's really that's a bridge to more extreme stuff. I just saw High and Dry. It's not a contender. It's not groundbreaking because they weren't the first of the new wave of British heavy metal bands. It is excellent, though, and it is definitely underrated. I don't think metal fans really give them the flowers they deserve. Especially the more and more removed we are. And I mean, it's been 40-something years at this point. High and Dry is fucking great. Well, let's not beat around the bush. Rust in Peace belongs in the Pantheon. Here's a disappointing album to me. And it didn't have to be. They just insist on writing the longest goddamn songs ever. Like, cut it out, man. Just trim the fat a bit. I know you want to have your fun. I'm not... Industrial metal has its place on a list like this. This is one of my favorite albums. And I'm not going to get too much into why it's one of my favorites. I think what I'm going to do is leave it in underrated. And I'm already seeing like a disparity here between albums of like really, really strong quality, these two and this one, that are just kind of, that don't have the reputation that I think they deserve. And some albums that are like pretty damn good that don't get enough love for whatever reason. Death Angel, like, they just don't get enough love anyway, plus they were gone for 20 years. This is one of the albums that, you know, Sharon tried to erase from everybody. Koino Yokan, if that is how you say it. There's an argument to be made that it's a bit disappointing just coming from Diamond Eyes, but I think this was pretty damn good. It's weird seeing it next to Around the Fur, because there's a sizable amount of people that would call Around the Fur like one of the best Tones albums. But I don't care particularly. So The Sound of Perseverance is like, it's a lot of times my favorite Death album to listen to. I don't think that I'm going to have any qualms with just leaving it in great, though. What do we have here? I think I said, I did, didn't I? I said Among the Living earlier when it wasn't. And this, I mean, again, I'm just not a huge Anthrax fan, so I can't personally put it higher than that. Let's see. I know a lot of people are going to say like the Jester Race and Horacle are the best. I think that, well, I don't think, I know that Colony is my favorite In Flames album. And I think it is a contender for one of the greatest. Like, this is like the Melodeath album to me. We've got Bark at the Moon here. It's pretty good for the time. Again, just not a huge Ozzy fan. This album fucking sucks. I'll just say that. Seymour Death. Does like Jesse Leach's comeback album with Killswitch need to be here? Probably not. I mean, Korn self-titled, there's no question. It is groundbreaking. Here we go. We've got Blood Mountain. To me, this is a contender. It's my favorite Mastodon. I'm just gonna move on. What do we have here? This was exceptionally disappointing to me. And I really like The Hunter. So take that how you may. The album art fucking slays. And it's not Emerald City. I'm blanking on the name of that song. Late in the album there, track 8 or 9. Ember City? Ember City. That is one of their best songs. But this thing sucks. Let's see. We've got Burn My Eyes. This is it groundbreaking? I don't know. It's like proto thrash. Is that what you would call it? Or like late stage thrash? But also it's got like kind of a early like new wave of American heavy metal feel. I think this, I mean, we just put it in excellence. Yeah, let's just do that. Havoc, I'm just going to say, like, I don't I haven't spent enough time with them. We can do this for sure. I think because 9 Inch Nails exists, this can't go here. So probably just an excellence. Personally, I kind of do like Turbo, I'm not going to lie. But we can leave that down here. British Steel, Hellbent for Leather. These are both... I don't think they're contenders. Because they do have quite a bit of filler. Like, we'll just say what it is. Is it influential? No, I think they're just both great. You can't really go wrong with 80s Priest from a full album standpoint. Peace of Mind, to me, is kind of underrated now. It sort of gets left behind because of, you know, Power Slave and the one that I think is pretty overrated. And Seventh Son and all that. I think Peace of Mind is kind of getting forgotten. It's not as good. I will agree. It's not as good as their very best. It's probably like their fifth or sixth, well, maybe like their sixth best album. But like CD's made, still really good. Still fucking really, really good. Let's see. Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2. Is this Part 2 or Part 1? It's pretty great. And a lot of people would put it higher. I think I might actually put it higher. This is a fucking great album. If you don't know Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2, Part 1 is also pretty fucking good. It's like early power metal. Came out in 88, which may well be like the greatest metal album or metal year of all time. Seventh star? Come on. What else jumps out at me here? So we've got Altars of Madness. No question, groundbreaking. Can there be more than one for death metal? Like, there's gonna be. If it's here. Last Command, Wasp, like where's the good shit? I think here's a underrated album. Meteora's kind of gotten forgotten. It is damn, like, goddamn fucking good. Got a lot of Meshuggah here. This one is definitely groundbreaking. We've got the birth of, like, Gent here. And it's still the one that I reach for when I want to listen to them. Abigail, baby. Or not Abigail, excuse me. Melissa. Abigail. Melissa. No question. This is a Pantheon album. Is it pretty damn close, like similar to Abigail and... I think I said earlier Fatal Portrait was a Merciful Fate album. It's not, obviously. King Diamond. But... And now that I think about it, this is a bit underrated as well. I think this gets slept on. Melissa's incredible. Merciful Fate was fucking hot shit. Yeah, I don't mind that. King Diamond's on there twice. No problem. And another one, I think Ace of Spades is... I think that goes in the Pantheon, man. This is probably the Meshuggah album. Is it a contender? I think so. I think that's the one. And again, I always mix up my Motorhead albums. Where's Bomber? I think it's more red. I can't find it. Okay. since we're here, Still Life. Is, to me, the Opeth album that makes the cut. It's kind of 1A, 1B, even though Blackwater Park is not probably in my top 5 favorite Opeth albums. But this kind of opens the door to Still Life and Morning Rise and My Arms Your Hearse. And this is just... There's no misses here. It's flawless. Let's see. I've got No More Tears there. Do I need that? We've also got My Arms Your Hearse. We can also talk about Heritage. I mean, here we go. Okay, so Morning Rise. We've also got Orchid. We can do this as well. We can't talk about every Opeth album, but the fact that I want to, I think, really just goes to show how fucking incredible their output is. So My Arms Your Hearse. Excellence. Front to back. Morning Rise. Same thing. Watershed. Is a bit underrated, but I'm going to leave it in great. Only because Heritage, I get why. I get why people don't like it that much. And I don't blame you. This is fucking really good music. Orchid is also great. And if you don't know, like, this is basically black metal. Man, it's damn good. I think I'm going to leave it in great. We'll leave it in great. Is this Bomber? Shit. Here's Pretty Hate Machine. I'm going to just distract myself and we'll come back to that later. Certainly groundbreaking. Really good stuff on there. And I'm not the biggest Nine Inch Nails fan, but really, really, really good stuff. We've got Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 here, Halloween. This is, I think Part 2's a little bit better, but this is really, really strong. And that kind of makes me realize that we are missing... We're going to make a note here. We have no Crimson Glory that I can see. I do not see Crimson Glory. I do see Rage Against the Machine's first album. If this is metal, and I am really not sure that it is, it's like probably in the contender list because it's just that good front to back. But I'm going to put it in influential to just recuse myself from that argument. Okay, well, I'm seeing some very, very obvious stuff. So let's go ahead and do... There's some Slayer stuff here. I mean, I guess I got to do it sooner or later. Not the biggest Slayer fan. I'm really not. Never been. Why do I not see Rain in Blood, sorry. My mouse is probably like literally right next to it. We'll come back. Here is one of the best metal albums of the millennium. And I think it surprises people when they actually like go back and give it a shot, how good this is, how fresh it still feels. I mean, if you're not a Surge fan, get it. If you're not a Darren fan, I do get it. But like, it's a very, very strong album. Seven Churches. I mean, I assume that I don't have to go into too much detail about why this is groundbreaking, but I will just say that this is still like required listening. It's that good. I'm seeing these Pantera albums, man. Like I can't do it. I don't like them very much. Okay. We're starting to clear out the list here. Okay, The Mantle. I lost it. There it is. There's potentially... It's not in the... I mean, it probably can't make the cut for the Pantheon. But for what this is, for what Agalloch is, what they do, and the doors that they open for a lot of people into the more atmospheric and expressive and adventurous metal bands, not just in black metal. I think that this album is really important for the underground. It's not my favorite, and I don't see my favorite. I do see Through Silver and Blood, though. Finally. This may well go up here in the Pantheon. I think that it probably does. Another band that I'm just now realizing that I haven't seen in here, and I probably would have noticed it by now, so I'm going to assume it's not here. It's Cult of Luna. I'm just going to go on record as saying they're better than Neurosis, and with that said, I would probably drop that album from the Pantheon into Contenders list for a Luna album. We have The Return here by Bathory. This is definitely groundbreaking. That's where it goes. Here we go. Okay. Got us a good Wasp album. Like a really fucking good Wasp album. The Headless Children is extremely surprising. I think if all you know from Wasp is like Animal and I Want to Be Somebody, I think this will really turn your head. Like, Blackie is an exceptionally talented vocalist. Chris Holmes wrote some fantastic guitar riffs. So that album's really great front to back. So since we're here, let's grab this. I don't think we need to deal with these. We've got Lateralis and we've got... I'm blanking on what this shit was called. Fear Inoculum, right? It's not disappointing. It's underrated. It's not as good as 10,000 Days. Not as good as Anima. It is most certainly not as good as Lateralis. But I do think that people are sleeping on this a little bit. And it's really weird to think that we're 5 years removed from this now. But I think the more you listen to it in different scenarios, right? Listen to it in the car, listen to it while you're around the house. It doesn't have to be focused listening. And in that context, I think it really starts to... That sounds weird. So it's... I'm saying it's best when you don't really pay attention to it. No. It's great. Don't get me wrong. So we've got good old Richie Blackmore's Rainbow here. It's not, I mean, it's... You could probably argue that it goes for both of these, but I think we're just going to leave it in the great category. I'm seeing the Saxon albums. I'm kind of still weighing that. Why is Risk here? Why do we need that? We've got Leviathan. This is Excellence to me. It kind of feels bad having Crack the Sky down here in great when Leviathan, I'm saying, is excellent, but they're all really close. Just say that. We've got Peace Cells. To me, that's a contender, man. Like there's a lot of people say this is better than Rust in Peace. I disagree, but I mean, it's damn close. You can't really like do better. Not much better, anyway. Antichrist Superstar. I think the quality on this is maybe lacking a little bit. It is, if you weren't there, like if you weren't, you know, at least like 10 years old to see the effect that Marilyn Manson had on, I mean, especially for me, like in a small town, like people legitimately thought this dude was like Satan, just Satan, that he was gonna, you know, make me slit my wrists. And I think if you weren't there, you maybe don't understand the impact that it had. It's definitely not my favorite Manson. In fact, there's only one Manson album that I really care to listen to too much, but that, I mean, this is a very high quality, like, industrial metal album. I think a lot of people probably say Master of Puppets is their Pantheon album. I disagree vehemently. Ride the Lightning changed a lot. Like, I'm not too worried about the order up here. You can already see we may have to drop an album or two from up here after we get going a bit further. I know one of them's going on here, or I know another album that's definitely going here. Yeah, Ride the Lightning is, I mean, it's flawless. It really, even Escape is like fucking great. There's Rain and Blood. Okay. So, I don't know what I did with the other Slayer albums. I lost them. We'll come back to those. Rain and Blood is pretty excellent. Is it a contender? Probably. Slayer's not my favorite band. But this is some pretty extreme shit, all things considered. And it made it to a lot of ears. So we've got very very interesting album here. Mayhem is, I hesitate to call it excellent because that it's probably like a 7 to 7.5 out of 10 album. But it's the setting, right? And it's the fact that the vocalist of this band killed himself before the recording, and the bass player killed the guitarist in the band, and there's just an atmosphere here that you kind of don't get anywhere else. And they kind of, I think they really wrote the book on the second wave of black metal here, along with Dark Throne. Like, to me, Transylvanian Hunger and De Mysteriis von Dom Satanis, I think, you know, say it however you want. I think those two albums are really kind of the formula for that second wave of black metal. I've kind of noticed, well, now that I say that, we're missing, that is the wrong way to spell that. We're missing Emperor here. Not my favorite band, but they certainly deserve to be on the list. We've got Roots Bloody Roots, also not my favorite. It's pretty fucking influential, though. What else do we have? So, Abzen, despite having Bleed, despite having my favorite Meshuggah song, is not really that good. It's a little bit disappointing. Like, it starts off so strong with those first two albums, but I think, especially if you go in like having heard Bleed, like Combustion's going to kick your ass, and then you get Bleed, and then like, I mean, that's like 17 minutes or whatever, and that's great. But after that, it really falls off for me. Show No Mercy is really good, I think. Okay, here's some good stuff. So we've got Skid Row. I don't know that this is underrated necessarily. It's underrated from the perspective that metalheads don't give Skid Row their due, I think. Slave to the Grind, though, is legitimately one of the greats. And especially for that era, because this is like 92, I think. By then, glam had really jumped the shark. And for them to put this fucking album out, the vocal performance from Sebastian, even the ballads kick all kinds of ass. You got a Reload here. I can ruffle a lot of feathers with my opinion of Load, but I don't see it. Not immediately, anyway. We got Ghost. I am very ghosted out. Like, way the fuck over Ghost. But this is a pretty great album, and it did reach a lot of ears. So we've got Shout at the Devil here. For what it is, this album is excellent. And it's more metal than glam. I'll leave it at that. What do we got? I'm not putting Porcupine Tree on the list, on the tiers. I don't consider them a metal band. I don't think they would want to be considered a metal band. Souls at Zero. It is excellent. Here's a really good album. Here's a really not good album. Where do I have ascendancy? That's going to matter. It's an excellence. I think that is probably a good spot for Shogun as well. The Crusade is one of the most disappointing albums I've ever heard, and it's not as bad as that makes it sound. But a lot of us, and in hindsight it looks dumb maybe, but a lot of us really thought Trivium was going to be the next like really huge band in metal. And a lot of people threw around like, hey, they're the next Metallica. And so they just released a Metallica album after that. Not a big fan of Matt Heafy's vocals on here. I would venture to guess that he is probably not either. There is good stuff here. Detonation's good. The anthem, I think, is super fun. I love it as like an 80s throwback. I'm just going to grab a random Testament album here. I'm not going to place them just because I'm still like 15 years later, still like really trying to get a good grasp of their catalog. We got black metal here. Obviously groundbreaking. Right? I mean, this invented black metal. It's not just the name. It's not just that they coined it. Okay, so we've got the slip nuts here. Where is Iowa? Doing pretty good of not having to use the get out of here rank. Self-titled, pretty groundbreaking. I think when you consider how fucking heavy this band is and how aggressive and how edgy they are, I think it's very surprising how big they got and how big they remain to this day. They're marketers. They knew what they were doing. Volume 3 is underrated. It remains underrated. I think this album is very different from Iowa, but it's at least as good. And I think Iowa is in the excellence category. This is pretty much a relentless assault front to back. Not my favorite. Pretty goddamn brutal. And when you consider the time and what was popular, this album is pretty fucking savage. Keep seeing spiritual healing. I'm not as sound. I mean, I've got Dirt up there. I don't think Bad Motorfinger like needs to be on the list. So Street Cleaner, Godflesh is obviously a great album. I don't know that it's groundbreaking, and I can't personally put it in. Do I put it in excellence? Like it. I think I'm going to leave it. It's pretty groundbreaking. The kind of southern sludge. What else do we have? I see Sleep here. I'm not super familiar with Sleep. Not enough to rank them. I see Exodus. I'm not going to do anything with Exodus. We've got enough thrash. Symbolic. Let's just call it what it is, man. Like it's probably in the Pantheon. What else do we have? See the Faith No More. I think this Disturbed album is a bit underrated. Like, is it metal? You know, I don't want to go down that road too much, but it's probably a bit underrated. Okay, here's some Wasp. Been looking for these. Crimson Idol is pretty great. And it's not a contender, but it is damn good. Like goddamn good. Early metal. I'm running out of reasons not to hit up a very particular band. So Too Fast for Love, since we already did Motley. Let's do... It's a pretty great album. And I'm seeing the Cannibal stuff. I don't know. I'm not a massive Cannibal fan. So it's kind of hard to judge where they really belong. And I'm not even seeing the one that I would rank the highest. I may have to come back to that. Oh God, why is Sabbath all the way down here at the bottom? Okay, well, let's start this. We got Paranoid. We got Debut, Heaven and Hell, Volume 4, Master of Reality, Mob Rules down there, very last for some reason. Was there Heaven and Hell? Am I crazy? There's that. This probably needs to be talked about. This probably goes up. This probably goes up. This definitely goes up. Pentagram, I Hate God, Sabotage, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Got that. We got these. Metallica just being the biggest fucking band ever, probably going to talk about that quite a bit. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but going to rank them. We don't need any more Venom. Keep seeing Sevenfold. I don't really want to touch that too much. Love it for Sting, baby. We got our Wheels of Steel. What else do we have? Typo. Oh, I put the wrong Anthrax album, didn't I? That's Worship Music. There's the Cannibal album. Okay. So now that all I did was move a shit ton of albums up, I gotta find them all now. So let's take... Here's Horacle. No question, that goes in Excellence. Alright. Here we go. So Death Magnetic is kind of fucking awesome. Pretty badass. Considering where they came. And Saint Anger's not, I don't think... I mean, I think it's literally a dumpster fire. But I think the reasons are 1, bloat, 2, James Hetfield's voice, 3, no solos, not a ton of good melody, and 4, the snare sound. Snare sound doesn't really bother me that much. If they cut half of that album out, like half of each song, you'd be left with a decent album. So here's On Through the Night. Where the hell is Pyromania? I will find it, surely. What did I just do? I started talking about Metallica. So we got Paranoid. Let's just put the albums we want to talk about right up here. Got Justice, Sabbath. We don't need to talk to Priest. Sin After Sin's not that great. Sorry. What else? Heaven and Hell. There it is. Leprosy. I don't really think we need to talk about Significant Other. I do want to do that. I'll talk a little bit of Holywood. We've got Remission. We're starting to get through this. I feel like I put another Scorpions album up here somewhere. Wheels of Steel. I mean, we'll do it. There's Worship Music. Am I crazy? We'll do this while we're here. Panzerfaust. I don't think we need to talk about it too much. It's pretty damn good. Maybe a bit underrated. We've got fucking Gorgoroth, baby. We wanted to talk about these. I love me some Brown album, but I would not call it metal. Okay, let's start there. So Paranoid, I never want to hear it again. Like fucking ever. And there's a huge argument for it to go up here in the Pantheon. But I just don't want to do that. I'm going to put a different album up there. And a lot of people, I think, would probably choose Heaven and Hell. I'm not going to. I think a lot of people would choose Master of Reality or Volume 4. I'm not going to. Mob Rules is arguably my favorite, but it does have a little, it's got a little bit of a dip there in quality. To me, Black Sabbath's Bloody Sabbath is in the Pantheon. Okay. So, this is not worship music. This is. So we've got Kill 'Em All. I don't think there's any question that this is groundbreaking. For extremely obvious reasons, we all know Metallica. Okay. Master is, to me, not in the Pantheon. I prefer Ride the Lightning. I think it's better front to back. I think there's more top tier hits on Ride the Lightning, but it is certainly a contender. White Pony. I am sorry, but this album's a bit overrated. Change in the House Flies, incredible. You know, Passenger is a fucking incredible song. Digital Bath is an incredible, like, it's tough, right? But this album is revered as this flawless masterpiece, and it's just not. It's not. And I'll just say it. Back to School sucks. That song fucking blows. And I think Chino would say that too. So there's maybe no more groundbreaking album than Sabbath's first album. Should be fairly obvious as to why. Load is so underrated it hurts me. And I'll just say that this isn't a metal album. And that's why you don't like it. Like, that's why it gets so much hate. I get it. I was there, you know? This album's really, really, really strong. There's maybe one or two songs that I think were misses there in the back end. But there's legit 6, like, top 20 Metallica songs on this, in my mind. Justice is... I think you could argue this is one of the most important metal albums ever. Specifically because One is on it. Biscuit. I mean... for what it is, you know, which is like preteen edgy stuff. It's pretty fantastic. Like it's pretty good at what it's trying to do. You can argue all day about whether that type of music has merit or not, but they were really big. They were really big, and I don't think it was for bad reason. I think Fred Durst is one of the great frontmen in modern rock. I think he's one of the more captivating frontmen, if not a mediocre lyricist, if I'm being nice. And, you know, the vocals are a bit cringe, but you kind of just have to realize, like, late 90s were just kind of cringe across the board, and not just from music. So Hell Awaits and Seasons of Mist. I think these are both excellent albums. These are the two that I prefer to listen to. Full stop. And for the most part, Slayer's Take It or Leave It with me, because I'm a melody guy. And I'm just gonna leave it. I'll just leave it at that. Did we put Rain and Blood? Yeah. So it's a contender. For sure. It doesn't make the cut as a Pantheon album, I do not believe. Wheels of Steel is also excellent. One of the great traditional metal albums ever. Remission is pretty great. This is a tough one to rank. I think that pretty much everybody will say that Vector, from a musical standpoint, is kind of awe-inspiring. It's kind of insane how good this album is. It's just by the nature of a one-man band that's underground. Well, it's not a one-man band, but well, it is now. I don't think this can be a contender. But this is just in a vacuum, one of the great metal albums of all time. Terminal Redux, if you're not familiar. We've got our Burzum. It's pretty freaking influential, man. Gorgoroth is pretty excellent. I'm assuming this is Pentagram. I think it is. The vocals on this are fucking wild. I don't really know how else to describe it. They sort of get a bad rap for being edgelords here in the second era of their band. And I guess we're kind of pretty far removed from them being in their second era. But I think it'll surprise you. Like, if all you've ever heard is, Carving a Giant type Gorgoroth, I think this will really surprise you. Got Hollywood. This is a bit underrated. There's some good stuff on this. Death Angel, also underrated. Some really strong late era thrash here. Just top tier stuff. I keep saying Avenged Sevenfold. Like, they're too big a band to not mention, but I can't find the one that I would like to semi-rank favorably. So we will continue to come back. There's another Vector album that is, like, fucking great. But I don't think we need two Vectors up there for the same reason. So let's do... I'm not going to put Twisted Sister up there. It's potentially important. I just kind of fucking hate it. Alright, let's... I mean, how do you not put the Black Album up there? It's a bit overrated, guys. It has several of my favorite Metallica songs on it, but I think that Load gets a lot of hate that this album should maybe get. I understand why it's so big. We don't need to get into it too much. System of a Down's first album, really strong. We've got In Waves here. Why am I doing 4 Trivium albums and, one of other bands? I don't know. Pretty good for the time. There's some really good stuff on In Waves. We've got Life is Peachy there. I'm not going to do Hot Dog, Flavored Water. Bit underrated here, I'm just going to say. And this is maybe... I'm going to move this up because this is some of my favorite production ever in hard rock and heavy metal. This album right here sounds massive. Again, we've got Exodus, we've got our Neurosis. Let's grab a couple albums that I've been putting off for a while. Let's just do this. Get it out of the way. What else do we want to talk about? I think we're okay with not bringing up the Merciful Fate, despite how good it is. Am I insane? Where is Bomber? Well, I forget which one's which, so we're going to grab this. Because I know it fucking rules, I just can't remember which one's which. We got our Slayer, so Sevenfold. We got Testament, Soundgardens. Like, why? Napalm, like, it obviously... They obviously belong up there. but I don't know them well enough. We did our Saxon. This is fucking good. Like, it could go up to. Got, shit, what is this even called? I forget. There's good stuff here. Good scorpions. What are we doing? What are we doing? Undertow, we're fine. Waking the Fallen, finally. Okay. Pretty good for the time. Waking the Fallen is good, like, transitional first to second era metalcore. I think, with some excellent guitar work. This is, speaking of excellence. I'm just going to say it. Rage for Order is, if not for a weird cover song and a sort of slip up in the Chemical Youth song, this is nearly flawless. It's fucking incredible. It inspired a lot of very adventurous music. I know John Petrucci has said over and over again, Rage for Order was huge for him. And John Myung and the other Dream Theater guys, big Queensryche fans. Goes to show. And that said, this album, if you don't know, The Warning, this is American Iron Maiden. It kicks ass front to back, man. It's really good. Empire is maybe the best produced album of the 90s. It may well be. It's right there with Dr. Feelgood. Some of the best Queensryche songs are on here. A little bit more commercial, obviously. I call it like I see it, man. And Operation Mindcrime to me is one of the 3 or 4 greatest metal albums of all time. Maybe something like that. Sabbath, probably. Yeah. In my opinion, Mindcrime, number 1. The best metal album of all time, in my opinion. We're running out here. City of Evil pisses me off for a lot of reasons. It has some good stuff on it, but this is when they, I don't know if jump the shark is the right idiom to use, but whatever they did it here, and they stopped being a band that I would ever give a shit about ever again. If you're a fan of theirs, I don't mean to offend. I know that will be offensive. Pentagram's pretty great. I don't know that we need to pull it up. So are we nearing the end of this? I see the Sleeps Obituary. Like, I don't know enough about Obituary to really rank them. And I haven't. Where is Scream Bloody Gore? Am I crazy? I see High on Fire. They kick all kinds of ass. A lot of bloat in here. Cannibal, Ozzy. Where the hell's Striper, by the way? You can pretend that they don't kick ass. You'd be wrong. Where's Dokken? Sad Wings, it's pretty not good. I'm sorry to say. Like, this is when Judas Priest became Judas Priest, I think, but it's not that great. It's not an album I want to listen to much. Inferno fucking slays, man. Here's Bomber. I don't know why I'd stared at it forever. No, like that is Bomber. This is one of the best, for sure. Probably not as good as Ace of Spades. It doesn't have the pedigree of Ace of Spades. Okay. So let's do a little... just a little bit of grazing here. I mean, this album is pretty alright. I don't think it matches the rest. I see you. There's enough Bathory up there. I know you invented like 3 genres. Electric Wizard. I'm not close enough to be able to really... Same thing with Bolt Thrower. I see you, Crowbar. I know... Is it... I mean, I don't... I'm going to leave Crowbar alone. I should probably check them out a little bit more. I mean, we've got our Dream Theater albums. The problem with Dream Theater is... Well, I mean, personally, there's a lot of problems with Dream Theater. I would probably... It's a pretty good for the time album. I see Awake. I think I'm just going to leave Dream Theater alone. All Through the Night, pretty underrated. Def Leppard, if you don't know, kick a lot of ass early on. We've got a pretty disappointing album right here as well. Despite having a couple good songs on it, just not a big fan of the pop era, Mastodon. I See You, Faith No More. I think this is excellent. I just have a hard time calling them metal. Despite, like, obviously having some influence. Do I have a Napalm up there? I do have a Napalm in the Unfamiliar. I don't think I can justifiably rank them right now. Why is Emperor to Inferno here? Is there anything else obvious that we're missing? This is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It's incredible. This is incredible. Bit overrated, despite having 4 really, really strong songs on it. This album sucks. There's our Scorpions. Pretty damn good for the time. Kind of the same thing with Overkill, right? And I don't mean to diminish Overkill. Pretty badass band. What do we have left? I feel like I saw something. Melvins are obviously influential, right? I just don't think that they're like... Obviously they appeal to metal. They're metal tertiary or metal adjacent. Neurosis is kind of covering what Melvins did for us, I think. So I'm not going to move Melvins up there. Some people might take issue with that. That's okay. I pulled a 9 Inch Nails album. I don't really think we need to worry too much about more of that. This album's got some good stuff on it, by the way. Prong, yeah, Primus. Porcupine, Pantera. I mean, this album's pretty good. It's good stuff. I kind of just hate them. This album's kind of underrated as we move on, but I'd really, again, don't really think it's metal too much. This album, assuming this is Sunset, I can't remember what the cover looks like. I think it is. to me was disappointing. I think it's a bit overrated, and I think it gives people the wrong idea because it attracts a lot of people who are new to metal. I think it gives people the wrong idea about a lot of metal. What is? I can't remember what this is. Is this like Wolves in the Throne Room or something? Probably not, given the kind of stuff we see on this list. Okay, so I think I've pulled everything out of the list itself that I want to pull. Let's talk about what's not here. I think there's some obvious metalcore and gent bands missing, and I think it's unfair to not include them. So As I Lay Dying in Unearth and Every Time I Die, who would definitely not call themselves a metal band. They're all metal adjacent. I think that they would all probably belong on this list somewhere. There's no Fell Silent. There's no Tesseract. There's no Periphery. There's no Between the Buried and Me. There's no Chimera. There's no Botch. What else are we missing? I think it's unfair to not have August Springs Red. I think it's short-sighted to say that they haven't been a big deal and influential. What are we missing? Where the fuck is Cradle of Filth? Where's Demu? Already talked about Emperor. What are we missing? Suicide Silence, Whitechapel. Maybe I peruse my list a little bit here. Shadows Fall's not on here. Honey of Opeth. I'm going to put this on here. Behemoth was on there. Could potentially argue for an album or two more, but I'm not going to freak out over it. Russian Circles, I mean, there's stuff on here that should not probably be here if a band like Russian Circles isn't there. We're kind of missing out on a lot of goth. Just going to say it. Lacuna. Darkest Hour. I think all these bands deserve some consideration for sure. My Beloved Sixth. Post-metal exists on this list, which means Rosetta needs to be here. Getting close here. Getting close here. Alcest for sure. Mentioned that before. Immortal. Pretty obvious one. Okay, that's good enough for me. I think that's good enough for me. One last little glance here. I'm kind of surprised Scream Bloody Gore is not here. I guess in place of it, I will use Leprosy. But really, Scream Bloody Gore is the one. I know we've got altars in there. There's just so much bloat here. Vector, Opeth, Porcupine, bunch of stuff. Saturday Night Wrist is a pretty underrated album. St. Vitus, I need to spend more time with St. Vitus. There's only so much time. I've been listening for 30-something years. There's only so much time. White Zombie, are you metal? I don't think they would say so. Mr. Bungle, same situation. I see Pentagram again. I see you, I Hate God. Obviously, like that's got to go. In the influential zone for sure. Did we do it? Okay, so I think for the sake of just having a nice even number, let's see if we can get this Pantheon down to 10. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 14 up here. Jesus, how do we cut 4 of these? Well, I think Still Life probably comes down. It hurts me, but Alive for Just Breathing probably comes down. I don't think Ride the Lightning can come off. I don't think that Sabbath album can come off. Neurosis. So if I do this, what am I saying? I'm saying that the 10 greatest metal albums are all pre-1990, except for Rest in Peace and Lateralis. Is that the precedent I want to set? I don't think there's any question Lateralis is one of the greatest, most certainly one of the greatest metal albums, arguably one of the greatest rock and just popular music as, like, in its totality. I think that is one of the most well-executed albums ever. Do we pull a King Diamond or a Melissa? Which one would I rather listen to? I would rather listen to Abigail. Melissa might be better, though. So just by way of having a bit of filler, does Screaming for Vengeance come down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No. Am I just an idiot? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, there we go. Okay. Okay. I feel better. I feel better. So if you're sitting there at home, not knowing what some of these albums are, and you want to know, I'll give them to you here. Maybe the top 3 ranks. Jesus. Okay. Why did I do this to myself? So we've got Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. We have Power Slave by Iron Maiden. Megadeth's Rust in Peace. We've got Tool Lateralis. Motorhead, Ace of Spades. King Diamond, Abigail. We've got Black Sabbath's Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. We've got Ride the Lightning by Metallica. Merciful Fate, Melissa. We've got Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. We have Killswitch Engage, Alive or Just Breathing. I Promise You. Give this a shot. Opeth's Still Life. Down here, we're in the contenders rank now. Alice in Chains, Dirt. We got Bathory's Under the Sign of the Black Mark. This is a pretty wild album here. Behemoth, The Satanist. Got Blackwater Park by Opeth. We have, why am I blanking on my favorite King Diamond album name? Conspiracy by King Diamond. Holy Diver by Dio. LD50 by Mudvayne. Panopticon by Isis. Excuse me. From Mars to Sirius by Gojira. Stained Class by Judas Priest. This is their best album, just saying. We've got Ashes of the Wake by Lamb of God. We have Colony by In Flames. Blood Diamond by Mastodon there. This is Destroy, Erase, Improve by Meshuggah. I believe that's what it's called. I know goddamn well this is the album I think it is. I just am blanking on what the 3 words are. Toxicity, System of a Down. We've got The Mantle by Agalok. Wasp, The Headless Children. Do not sleep on this album. Oh man, it's so good. Peace Sells, But Who's Buying by Megadeth. We've got Rain and Blood by Slayer. Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. Paranoid by Sabbath. We've got Heaven and Hell by Sabbath. Volume 4 by Sabbath. Master of Reality by Sabbath. Yes, they are all that good. Master of Puppets by Metallica. Rage for Order. Oh, it's so good. Rage for Order by Queensryche. We got Motorhead's Bomber. Through Silver and Blood by Neurosis. And Symbolic by Death. This Hurts. This Hurts. I think there's a really strong argument for this to be a Pantheon album. But same for Alive or Just Breathing. In the excellence category, Them is every bit as good as Conspiracy. So let's just move that on up. So we've got Blessed Are the Sick by Morbid Angel here in the excellence category, and this is kind of front to back. You need to listen to the whole album. We have Ascendancy by Trivium and Shogun by Trivium. We have As the Palaces Burn by Lamb of God. Transylvanian Hunger here. We have Anima by Tool. We have Denim and Leather by Saxon. Fantastic new wave British heavy metal band. Images and Words by Dream Theater. It's a little bit hit or miss here for me, but I know most people love this front to back. We've got Human by Death, and that is like interchangeable with Symbolic. It's just a matter of preference, really. So we've got Ghost Reveries by Opeth. Unbelievable. Like, super good album. Killers by Maiden. The Way of All Flesh by Gojira. We've got Judas Priest Painkiller. Somewhere in Time by Maiden. Fucking fantastic album. Hybrid Theory. I probably don't need to tell you that. High and Dry by Def Leppard. Where the hell's Pyromania? Because it belongs up here in the contenders category. Where is Pyromania? And then we've got Among the Living with our Anthrax boys there that I'm sure some people like. Sorry. Burn My Eyes by Machine Head. Demanufacture by Fear Factory. There we've got Keeper of the Seven Keys Volume 2 by Halloween. My Arms Your Hearse by Opeth. We have Morning Rise by Opeth. This is, I mean, both of the, just fucking listen to them. I don't know what to say. Leviathan by Mastodon. Girls, Girls, Girls. Nope, excuse me. Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue. Don't sleep on it. Souls at Zero by Neurosis, fucking good album. Iowa, Slipknot, what can you say? Debut by Wasp. We've got Horacle by In Flames here. I didn't see the Jester Race down below, and that probably belongs in this category as well. I could talk about it, like the good In Flames album, ad nauseum, so I won't. Mob Rules, my favorite Sabbath song, is on here. Should be fairly obvious if you check out my screen name there, username, whatever. Justice, I mentioned it earlier. We've got Hell Awaits and South of Heaven. Wheels of Steel, Saxon, fucking excellent. Talked about Vector. We've got our Gorgoroth. I'm blanking on what this album is called. Death Angel's third release. Sorry, blanking on it. First album's Thrashers, blanking on the second album, whatever. Holy shit, I've been doing this too long. This is not Bomber, because Bomber's up here. Is this Sacrifice? It is a distinct album cover. It's fucking fantastic, I promise. We have The Warning by Queensryche. American Maiden, with better vocals, and better everything else too. Empire. And then we've got our Faith No More there. And that's where I'm going to leave it. And again, the idea is we'll come back to this later on after I put a little bit of time into the bands that I didn't feel comfortable putting on the tier list, because I want to know more. I'm not super infatuated with death metal a lot of the time, and it's mostly because I really need a lot of melody. Like, if it's not obvious from my favorite band being Queensryche, I need a lot of melody. It's really important to me, and you don't get that much in death metal. So that's the idea. One last little glance here at our ranks. Feel free to leave your input if you think we're missing out on maybe some things. If you think another rank is deserving here, maybe like great for the genre, but not super particularly impactful. Surprisingly good. Yeah, something like that. But I think I'm going to call it a night. Have a good night, y'all. Take it easy.